everybody, welcome to another episode of Jessica Smith TV. So today's healthy how-to segment is how to grow an organic garden in a very small space. And since I am terrible at planting and growing things, I wanted to introduce you to my sister Courtney, who definitely got the green thumb in my family. And she's going to share with us some great tips for gardening in a small space with her garden here.
Well, thank you. The first thing that I would say is to do your research.
Okay.
We live in Florida, so our growing season is really, really long, which is helpful for a lot of plants. But there are some plants that need the cold to do really well. And so it's really important for you to know what zone you live in, and you can look that up online, you can get a book. You can look it up many different ways, but it's really important for you to know what your growing season is, what plants do really well, so that you can feel successful. If you continue to plant plants that are not going to do well, then you're going to feel like you're not really good at this, when it could just be that it's just the zone that you're in.
Okay, I'm gonna blame it on the zone then. And don't a lot of the seeds have charts on the back of them too?
Yeah.
That explain like,
absolutely.
This is your zone and when to plant this?
Yes, they definitely do. And also if you choose to order a lot of seeds from online catalogs, they also have a lot of helpful tips in terms of where it's gonna do really well.
Okay, so once you know when to plant and what types of things in your garden will do best, that's when you kind of start. And then where do you find your seeds to plant?
It depends. There's some of them that are really hard to grow from seeds, and you really have to have kind of a greenhouse, and it takes a lot of work and effort, and sometimes you just don't want to put that kind of work into it. So there are some things that just go to the store and buy a plant that's already started. The hard work is out of the way, and put it in your garden and start to produce right away. There are other things that grow really easily from seeds. Squashes grow really easily from seeds. Watermelon grows really easily from seeds. So generally, the bigger the seed is, the easier it's going to grow. If they're really tiny, like tomatoes are really tiny, and I've had some success, but a lot of times I try and plant a lot of tomato seeds and barely any of them come to an actual plant because they're so finicky as seeds. So I do a little bit of both. I order some seeds that I know are going to be easy, and then I go out to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever's in your area and buy some plants. I am a frugal shopper, so I also, in addition to knowing that the plants are organic or heirloom, I also want to make sure that I'm getting the best price. I will do some research. I'll pull up a bunch of tabs on my computer and go from one site to the next, and it's really easy. You just Google search and a ton of things come up.
Now, I know you mentioned something about the size of the seed with the plants. I had this great idea to try and grow an avocado tree. And that's a really big seed. I heard that avocado doesn't bear fruit for like 7 years. Is that true?
A long time.
So that might be the exception to the seed size rule.
Usually fruit trees, like big trees, just go to the store and buy it. Unless you're going to be in your home for years and years, and it's something that you want to plant and really watch grow and take pride in that, but it's going to take a long time.
Got it. So once we have all of our homework done and we've decided what plants we want to grow, what's going to work best in our climate, then how do you recommend setting something up in a small space?
It's really good to do a plan of attack. Definitely the first thing that you need to do is make sure that your soil is ready for plants. For us here, we knew that our soil was not very good. We had a lot of construction going on, and it depleted the soil that was naturally here of all the nutrients. So we went to the store and we bought some organic cow manure dirt. It's great.
And
it's
where do you buy cow manure dirt?
We bought it at Home Depot, but any of those kind of hardware stores are going to have a variety of those things, and it's really cheap and it's perfect. It's kind of that whole recycling circle of life. It's going to come back and help you grow your garden. We poured a bunch of dirt in and mixed it all up, and that's kind of the heavy work, and then just plan it out. For us, we knew that we wanted to do on the two edges of our gardens things that could stay year-round, herbs and things that were really easy to grow. And then in the center, we wanted to do something that was going to turn over with every season. So the center part, we have mostly fruits and vegetables, well, mostly vegetables, a little bit of fruit. And those kinds of things are going to grow, they're going to fruit, and we'll pick all that stuff. When the plant is done, pull it out, start something else.
Okay, so once you've decided where things should go, what's another tip that you have for, there's tons of bugs and pests out there that really eat your garden, and I'm going to blame, again, my garden deaths on pests. It's not me. So what do you do to stay organic without having to use sprays and pesticides? What can you do to keep things organic?
Well, it kind of goes along with your plan. Some people really like very linear gardens where there's rows of plants, which can work. I tend to be a little bit more artistic with the way that I do things. Tall plants and short plants, and just something that looks really lush and visually pleasing for me. So I also think about what plants are going to do well besides each other, and that can be part of your research. If you know that you want to do, say, like a salad garden where you've got lettuce and tomatoes, and you can look and see what's going to do really well together. Companion planting is really great for the pests and the bugs as well. For example, tomato plants, plant some marigold flowers. It brings a little bit of color into your garden, and it helps to repel some insects that really like to eat the tomato plants.
Interesting. So how close should they be?
You know, I would say within a radius. Again, it kind of depends aesthetically on how you want that to look. So I like to kind of spread my flowers out throughout so that there's punches of color here and there, because most vegetables are just green, which is also beautiful, but sometimes a little boring. That's kind of also a research thing. If you know that your plant is going to be really big, you got to think about the root system going kind of just as big in the ground. So you don't want to disturb a ton of your root system by planting something else and kind of cutting off the roots. That's bad for the plant.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So does it correlate to the height of the plant? Is that the width of the root system?
It sort of depends on the plant. Some of them have a really long tap root, which kind of goes straight down, and others are really shallow and kind of go along the edge. Look up everything. If you know you only want 5 different plants, look up everything you can about those plants. You give yourself the best chance to succeed.
Now I noticed too that you also have a lot of mulch on top. So when we look at this, you know, I obviously don't see a pile of cow manure. Tell me about why you decided to put the mulch on.
Sure.
What does that do?
Well, in Florida, it's kind of twofold. It's really hot here, especially in the summertime. Any moisture that's left in the soil is going to be drawn out into the air if you don't cover it with something. Also, sometimes it can be really wet here. When it rains and rains, the mulch kind of helps to be a filter so that the water doesn't pool in one place and drown a plant. So the mulch helps to keeps it really the right consistency. It's like a protective layer. You can get mulch in any variety. You can get it in wood, cypress. Sometimes it reminds me of when we used to have hamsters, that smell.
Yeah, the cedar chip.
Or you can go a more earth-friendly route, and they have recycled rubber mulch that is really fantastic. So you're taking old tires and you're putting them to a second use.
Where would you get something like that?
Home Depot.
Home Depot, sponsor us. So when you put the protective layer over, do you put that over top of the seeds, or is that something that has to come after the plant has to come
Sure.
through?
There are some seeds that you can put right in, like my green bean plants. Those seeds can go in, and the plant itself, the seedling, is really hardy, so it can push its way through. But I wouldn't put tomato seeds in there because they're not strong enough to kind of push through there. So if you're going to start smaller seeds like that, start them in smaller containers or mini greenhouses that have little containers where you can start your own seeds and then transfer them once they get big enough.
Just looking at the garden here, you can see that this is not a huge amount of space. If you're someone like me, home, we really don't have a lot. We don't have a yard. We don't have a big open space. This is really a great idea for someone who might be looking for a garden in a very small space. So do your research, plan everything out ahead of time, think about companion planting. Is there anything else that you would tell us about making a really successful small space organic garden?
It's really important to have fun.
Yeah,
because it can be really stressful if you continue to fail at some things. If you see that there's a couple plants that are really growing well, stick with those. So then it's something that you enjoy, and you go outside and you like doing it, and it's not a chore, it's not a task anymore. It's no benefit to you.
That sounds like our philosophy on fitness and exercise. So have fun with it. Gardening is great exercise, guys. You're burning lots of calories, even though that's not our main focus. But it is a great way to get out in the open and breathe in some fresh air and just really connect with soil and the earth. I really hope that I can create my own outdoor garden space. I made this tip clip as much for myself as for you guys. Well, thank you so much for sharing your tips with us today, Courtney. And I know many of you are gardening experts as well. Even if you're not a garden expert, but you have a really great tip for how to grow a garden in a small space or tips on planting, we want to hear from you too. Leave us a comment below, share with us your best tips so we can all continue to learn and grow together. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you at our next episode.